The Takari Collective's ships appeared without warning, casting long shadows across Earth's cities as they positioned themselves in the lower atmosphere. People stopped in streets, pointing upward at the massive vessels that resembled polished obsidian discs. Emergency broadcasts interrupted regular programming worldwide. Commander Ryun stood on the observation deck of the flagship, his forearms clasped behind his back as he studied the blue planet below. The exoskeleton covering his 3-meter frame gleamed under the command center's lights, plates shifting slightly with each movement. "Begin planetary assessment," he ordered, his mandibles clicking rhythmically. Officer Day moved to the scanning station. Her own exoskeleton darker and less ornate than her commander's, her fingers worked quickly across the control surface. "Assessment complete," she announced after several minutes. "The dominant species appears remarkably fragile. They possess no natural armor or protective structures. Muscle density readings are approximately 1/3 of Takari standard. Reflex testing indicates significantly slower response times than our warriors." Ryun tilted his head, compound eyes reflecting the holographic display of human anatomical data floating before him. "Curious they've survived this long without such basic evolutionary advantages. Their technology must compensate somehow. They appear to have achieved basic spaceflight and planetary colonization," Day noted. "But their weapon systems are primitive. No phase technology, minimal energy projection capabilities." "Prepare the diplomatic team," Ryun decided. "Standard first contact. Protocols." The Takari's idea of diplomacy shocked Earth's leaders. The aliens transmitted their terms directly into the United Nations Assembly. Immediate surrender of all military assets, acknowledgement of Takari authority, and integration into their collection of subjugated worlds. When human representatives attempted to negotiate, the Takari delegation simply walked out. By the next day, smaller Takari ships had positioned themselves around every major military installation on Earth. In Seoul, Captain Jun Kim stood in the South Korean Military Command Center watching as their satellite feeds went dark one by one. The screens displaying orbital imagery flickered and died as Takari ships systematically disabled Earth's surveillance network. "They're isolating us," Jun told the room of increasingly nervous officers. "Cutting our communications before the main attack. It's standard invasion protocol." General Park shook his head. "How would you know their standard protocols?" "Because it's what we would do," Jun replied grimly. "Cut communications, blind your enemy, then strike when they're disorganized." Outside the command center, people filled the streets despite government warnings to stay indoors. Some carried signs welcoming the aliens. Others protested the military response. Most simply watched the sky, wondering what would happen next. The answer came exactly 48 hours after the Takari arrival. All electronic devices capable of receiving transmissions, phones, computers, televisions, radios, simultaneously activated. Commander Ryun's image appeared, his alien features filling screens worldwide. "People of Earth," the translation began, the Takari's words processed through their own interpretation matrix. "Your planet now falls under the protection and authority of the Takari Collective. Our scans indicate your species possesses potential value as labor and research subjects. Resistance is unnecessary and would result in significant population reduction." Ryun's compound eyes seemed to stare directly at every viewer. "Your planetary defense systems have been neutralized. Your communication networks are under our control. Your governing bodies are being secured as I speak." In homes across the planet, families huddled together watching the broadcast. Children cried as parents tried to comfort them. Some people ran for hastily prepared shelters or evacuation routes. Others simply stood frozen in disbelief. "The Takari Collective offers you a choice," Ryun continued. "Submit to Takari authority and survive as a protected species or resist and face extinction. You have 24 hours to communicate your collective decision. Choose wisely." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving billions in stunned silence. In the Seoul Command Center, the screens returned to normal, but the satellite feeds remained dark. Emergency communications worked sporadically. Reports came in of Takari vessels deploying smaller craft near major capitals. "What do we do now?" a young lieutenant asked, voicing what everyone was thinking. Captain June looked around the room at his fellow officers. We find a way to fight back. They may have better technology, but we're fighting for our home. Outside the window, a Takari scout ship cruised slowly over the city, its metallic surface reflecting the afternoon sun. The 24-hour countdown had begun. 6 months had passed since Earth surrendered to the Takari. Life continued under their rule, but everything had changed. Tall metal checkpoints stood at every major intersection in Busan. Humans lined up to show their identification cards as Takari guards scanned each person with handheld devices that beeped softly. Hana Park lived in a small apartment in the Eastern District. Before the invasion, she had worked as a veterinarian. Now she worked at a Takari processing center, sorting and cataloging Earth artifacts for shipment to the aliens' homeworld. The work was boring, but gave her access to information. This evening, Hana sat at her kitchen table with her wolf-dog hybrid, Tay. The large animal had thick gray fur and alert yellow eyes. He had been a rescue animal, part wolf and part husky, that Hana had adopted 3 years ago. "Good boy," she whispered, slipping extra food under the table. Meat was now rationed, but Hana saved part of her portion for Tay. The small television in the corner played a Takari announcement on repeat. A human spokesperson with empty eyes read the latest rules. The Takari administration reminds all citizens that companion animal ownership decreases productivity by 17%. For the good of all, non-essential creatures will be relocated to designated facilities starting next week. Hana checked her watch. The resistance meeting would start in 30 minutes. She needed to leave soon to make it through the checkpoints before curfew. "Stay quiet," she told Tay, patting his head. "I'll be back soon." She locked the apartment door, hiding Tai inside. Keeping him was against the rules, but Hana couldn't bear to part with him. Many people had already lost their pets to Takari collection teams. Outside, the evening air felt cool against her face. Hana joined the line at the checkpoint, keeping her expression neutral as the Takari guard waved a scanner over her. The alien's 4 arms moved with mechanical precision, 2 handling documents while the others operated equipment. "Purpose of travel?" the guard asked, voice clicking through the translation device. "Visiting my mother," Hana lied. "She is sick." The guard studied her for a moment, compound eyes unreadable. Finally, it stamped her movement pass and waved her through. Hana walked quickly through 3 more districts, taking a complex route to avoid being followed. Eventually, she reached an abandoned subway station. The entrance was blocked with official danger signs, but Hana slipped past them and descended the dark stairs. Underground, battery-powered lights created small pools of yellow light. About 20 people had gathered, speaking in hushed voices. Hana recognized most of them. Teachers, doctors, former military, ordinary people fighting back in small ways. Wu stood near the old ticket booth. Before the invasion, he had been a police officer with the K9 unit. Now he worked as a maintenance worker at a Takari command center. "You're late," he said when Hana approached. "Checkpoints are doubled in the Eastern District," she explained. "How's Tank?" Tank was Wu's German Shepherd, his former police partner. Wu's face darkened. "They took him yesterday. A collection team came to my building and took all dogs over 20 kilograms. Hana felt her stomach drop. "Tay is still safe, but not for long. Why are they targeting larger dogs specifically? That's what we need to find out," Wu said, leading her deeper into the station where a small group had gathered around a table covered with maps. Min, a former university professor, was explaining something to the group. "We've been tracking the pattern of confiscations. They started with weapons, then communications equipment, and now large dogs. There must be a reason." "I saw something interesting today," Hana said, joining the circle. "At the processing center, I cataloged reports about Takari patrol units. 3 units reported equipment malfunctions after encountering guard dogs at a warehouse." "What kind of malfunctions?" asked Jin, a computer programmer. "Their communication systems failed and their exoskeleton joints locked up," Hana explained. The report blamed it on Earth's atmospheric conditions, but it happened right after dogs started barking at them. The group fell silent, considering. this information. I've noticed something too, Wu added. The Takari at my worksite take a wide path around the security dogs. I thought they were just being cautious, but what if it's more? Min leaned forward. We need to test this. If there's a connection between dogs and Takari vulnerability, it could be important. I can help, Hana volunteered. I still have Tai hidden in my apartment, and I have access to Takari medical scans through the processing center. It's dangerous, Wu warned. If they catch you with an unregistered animal that size, Hana nodded. I know, but Tai is family. And if there's something about dogs that bothers the Takari, we need to know what it is. As the meeting continued, plans formed. The resistance was small, but growing. And now they had a new direction, to investigate. One that might explain why Earth's oldest animal companion suddenly seemed so threatening to their alien occupiers. The resistance meeting had been moved to an abandoned hospital basement. The location changed weekly to avoid detection. 20 people sat in a circle on old chairs and crates, their faces lit by battery-powered lamps. The air smelled stale and damp. Professor Sung stood in the center, his thin frame hunched over a tablet. Before the invasion, he had been a leading biologist at Busan National University. Now he worked as a technician in a Takari research facility, secretly gathering information. I've analyzed all the data we've collected, Professor Sung said, his voice low but excited. The pieces finally fit together. He connected his tablet to a small projector. Images appeared on the blank wall. Diagrams of Takari anatomy, chemical formulas, and frequency readings. The Takari exoskeletons aren't just armor, he explained, pointing to specific parts of the diagram. They contain sensory nodes that detect particular frequencies. These nodes help them navigate and communicate. Hana sat forward on her crate. She had spent weeks helping collect this data, risking her life to place small recording devices near Takari patrols. What does this have to do with dogs? She asked. Professor Sung smiled. Everything. Look at these readings. He switched to a new image showing sound wave patterns. This is the subvocal growl of a large dog, recorded at frequencies humans barely perceive. And this, he switched slides, is the frequency range that Takari sensory nodes are most sensitive to. The two patterns overlapped almost perfectly. Their planet has no equivalent to canids, Professor Sung continued. Nothing in their evolutionary history prepared them for Earth's predators. More importantly, their bodies produce chemical compounds, remarkably similar to prey animals on Earth. A murmur went through the group as understanding dawned. Hana leaned forward. So dogs can sense them as predators would sense prey? Exactly, Professor Sung confirmed. Dogs can detect their presence in ways our technology can't. Their instincts identify Takari as prey, and the Takari know it. That's why they're removing larger dogs first. But why are they afraid? Asked Wu. They have advanced weapons. No dog could actually hurt them through those exoskeletons. Professor, Sung pointed to another diagram. Their exoskeletons have gaps at the joints. The material is sensitive to pressure and vibration. A large dog's jaw could cause significant damage if it targeted these areas. The resistance members exchanged glances. This information changed everything. We need to test this, Hana said. I still have Tai hidden in my apartment. If what you're saying is true, I should be able to observe their reaction. Others voiced concern about the risk, but Hana was determined. She had kept Tai hidden for months, sneaking him out only at night for brief walks. If his presence could help defeat the Takari, the risk was worth it. 3 days later, Hana got her chance. Her apartment building was scheduled for a routine inspection. 2 Takari officers and a human collaborator went door to door, checking for unauthorized technology and contraband. Hana had hidden Tai in her bedroom closet. But as the patrol approached her door, the wolf-dog hybrid grew restless. He could smell something unusual. When the Takari officers stepped into her apartment, Tay let out a low, rumbling growl from behind the closed bedroom door. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Both Takari officers froze. Their exoskeletons seemed to ripple, plates shifting as if preparing for impact. They raised their weapons, pointing them at the bedroom door. What was that sound? The taller Takari demanded, its translated voice crackling with static. My neighbor's audio system, Hana lied quickly. The walls are thin. The human collaborator looked suspicious, but the Takari officers were already backing toward the apartment door. Complete your inspection quickly, the lead officer ordered the human remaining in the hallway. After they left, Hana sank to the floor, heart racing. She had seen genuine fear in their reaction. The mighty Takari, with all their advanced technology, were afraid of an Earth animal. That night, Hana sent a coded message through the Resistance network. They're afraid. Confirmation complete. The message spread from cell to cell. Plans began forming in hushed conversations across the occupied city. The Resistance now had knowledge of a vulnerability they could exploit. In her apartment, Hana knelt next to Tae, running her fingers through his thick fur. Good boy, she whispered. You might just help save us all. Professor Sung began working on ways to amplify and direct canine sounds. Others in the Resistance network started counting and locating all remaining large dogs in the city. A plan was forming, one that would use humanity's oldest animal alliance against their alien occupiers. For the first time since the invasion, Hana felt real hope. The Takari had superior technology and weapons, but they had overlooked something important about the planet they had conquered. They had underestimated both humans and the creatures humans had befriended thousands of years ago. The Resistance called their plan Operation Howl. The name spread through underground networks, passing from city to city in coded messages. Soon, Resistance cells across the world knew what it meant. Humans were finally fighting back. 3 weeks after Professor Sung's discovery, Hana traveled to an abandoned farm outside Daegu. The journey was dangerous. She had to pass through 5 checkpoints with false papers, claiming she was relocating for work assignment. Tae traveled in a specially built compartment beneath her small electric car, designed to block the Takari scanners. The farm sat in a valley surrounded by hills. From the outside it looked deserted, buildings in disrepair, fields overgrown. But underground, connected by old storage tunnels, a training facility had been created. When Hana arrived, 50 people were already there with 30 dogs of various breeds. German Shepherds, Dobermans, Huskies, Malinois, and mixed breeds like Tae. All were medium to large-sized dogs with good training potential. You made it, Wu greeted her, helping unload Tae from the hidden compartment. The wolf dog stretched and shook himself, looking around with curious eyes at the other animals. Barely, Hana replied. The checkpoints are getting stricter. They're using new scanning technology. Inside the main barn, the Resistance had created a training area. They had built mock-ups of Takari exoskeletons using scavenged materials. The dog handlers gathered around as Jin, a former military K9 trainer, demonstrated with his Belgian Malinois named Kilo. Remember, Jin explained, we're not training them to kill. Their presence alone creates confusion for the Takari. Our goal is to target communication devices and mobility joints. He pointed to specific areas on the mock-up exoskeleton. The weak points are here at the neck where their communication equipment connects, and here at the leg and arm joints. Even a medium-sized dog can disable a Takari soldier temporarily by attacking these areas. Over the next week, Hana worked with Tai and helped other handlers train their dogs. The animals learned to respond to specific commands, when to growl, when to bark, when to attack, and most importantly, when to retreat. They practiced with the sound of gunfire so the dogs wouldn't panic during the real operation. They're learning, fast, Hana told Professor Sung, who had arrived to monitor the training. Dogs have been working with humans for 15,000 years, he replied. The Takari don't understand what they're facing. It's not just animals, it's one of the oldest partnerships on Earth. At night, the Resistance members gathered to share information. Similar training facilities had been established on every continent. Reports came in from Resistance cells in North America, Europe, Africa, and across Asia. The Takari pattern of removing dogs was the same everywhere, confirming the aliens' universal vulnerability. The Takari have a centralized command structure, explained Min, studying maps of known alien installations. They rely on constant communication. If we can disrupt that even temporarily, their units can't coordinate. A global plan formed. The resistance would strike simultaneously worldwide. Dogs would be used to create chaos and target communication equipment, while human fighters would move in to capture key facilities. Transmission time was limited and dangerous. The Takari monitored all electronic communications, but slowly, using old radio equipment and coded messages passed by trusted couriers, the plan spread. The date was set. 3 weeks from now, when the Takari would be rotating their command personnel. Security would be temporarily reduced during the transition. As training intensified, Hana worked closely with Tai. The wolf-dog hybrid was exceptionally good at targeting the weak points in the mock exoskeletons. His wolf ancestry gave him a natural predatory instinct that made him fearless. "He understands what we're doing," she told Wu one evening, as they watched Tay successfully complete a complex training sequence. "All the dogs do in their way," Wu replied. "They can sense how important this is. They know we're fighting for our home." 2 days before the operation was scheduled to begin, a Takari patrol discovered one of the smaller training facilities near Seoul. The news reached the Daegu group through emergency channels. "They'll be looking for us now," Jin warned. "We need to accelerate the timeline." Quick decisions were made. Encrypted messages went out to all resistance cells. Operation Howl would commence 24 hours earlier than planned. That night, Hana sat with Tay under the stars, her hand resting on his thick fur. Tomorrow they would leave for their assigned target, a Takari communication hub in central Busan. "We might not survive this," she whispered to her faithful companion. Tay leaned against her, his yellow eyes watching her face. He seemed to understand the gravity of what was coming. Across the world, other handlers were having similar moments with their dogs. The most ancient alliance on Earth was preparing for battle against invaders from the stars. The resistance struck at dawn. As the sun rose over cities worldwide, Operation Howl began. In parks, alleyways, and hidden locations near Takari installations, handlers gave the signal. Hundreds of dogs moved into position, trained for this exact moment. In Busan, Hana crouched behind an abandoned delivery truck with Tay and 5 other handlers and their dogs. Ahead stood the Central Communication Hub, a building that once housed a telecommunications company. Now it served as the nerve center for all Takari operations in the southern region. "Remember the plan," Hana whispered. "Target communications first, then retreat to safety points." Tay's eyes were fixed on the building entrance. His ears stood alert, muscles tense and ready. The other dogs, 2 German shepherds, a Doberman, and 2 mixed breeds, were equally focused. Hana checked her watch. "Now!" The handlers gave their commands. The dogs rushed forward silently, reaching the perimeter before the Takari guards noticed them. When the first alien spotted the approaching canines, it immediately raised its weapon and backed away, its exoskeleton plates shifting rapidly in what the resistance had learned was a fear response. The guard activated its communication device, but by then the dogs had reached their positions. Barking erupted suddenly from all sides. The sound was deafening, amplified by special collars Professor Sung had designed to target the specific frequencies that disrupted Takari sensory systems. The effect was immediate. The Takari guards froze, their movements becoming jerky and uncoordinated. Several dropped their weapons, their multiple limbs scrambling to cover the sensory nodes on their exoskeletons. "Phase 2, Hana commanded through her radio. The handlers moved forward with the human strike team, while the dogs continued their assault, targeting the joints and communication equipment of the disoriented aliens. The humans rushed the building. Similar scenes played out across the globe. In New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow, and hundreds of other cities, dogs led the charge against the invaders. The Takari's carefully planned defenses collapsed in the face of an attack they had never anticipated. In the Seoul Command Center, Commander Ryun received fragments of distress calls from his forces worldwide. "Report status," he demanded as his officers frantically worked their communication stations. "Units are compromised across all sectors," Officer Day replied, her own exoskeleton vibrating with stress signals. Communication networks failing. What is happening? Ryun demanded. The humans have deployed their quadrupeds against our forces, another officer reported. Our sensors are overwhelmed by their sonic attacks. Ryun's compound eyes narrowed. What do you mean compromised by quadrupeds? He demanded. These are primitive creatures. Deploy shock troops to all affected areas. But the reinforcements faced the same problem. Without their communication networks, the Takari couldn't coordinate. Their rigid military structure, which had made them such effective invaders, now became their weakness. In Busan, Hana and her team fought their way through the building. Tai moved ahead, his sensitive nose detecting Takari soldiers before the Y. Humans could see them. When they encountered a squad of 6 aliens in a corridor, Hana gave the signal. 20 dogs rushed forward from different directions, targeting the aliens' communication equipment and joint mechanisms. The Takari fired their weapons but couldn't aim effectively with the dogs attacking their limbs. Within minutes, the squad was disabled, their exoskeletons damaged, and communications destroyed. Within hours, resistance forces had reclaimed key installations worldwide. The Takari's superior weapons meant little when their soldiers couldn't maintain formation or communicate effectively. Their chain of command had been severed. In the central control room of the Busan facility, Hana's team secured the communication equipment. They managed to establish a direct link to the Takari command ship in orbit. We need to speak with Commander Ryun, Hana told the Takari officer they had captured. The alien hesitated, then complied, its movements stiff with what might have been fear or resignation. On the large screen, Commander Ryun's face appeared. Behind him, Hana could see the bridge of the command ship in disarray. You've lost, she stated simply, with Tae standing proudly at her side. Your forces are defeated on every continent. Your communication network is in our hands. Ryun's mandibles twitched. This is unexpected. We want your forces off our planet within 3 days, Hana continued, or we'll continue our offensive. The alien commander studied her, then looked at Tae. We miscalculated, he admitted finally. Your species' strength isn't in your bodies. It's in your alliances. This is a form of warfare we have never encountered. 3 days later, Hana stood on a hillside outside Busan with Tai beside her. Above them, Takari ships rose into the sky, leaving Earth's atmosphere. All across the planet, humans watched as their invaders departed. The victory had not come without cost. Many resistance fighters had died in the assault. Some of the brave dogs had been lost as well. But Earth remained free. Hana scratched Tae behind the ears as they watched the last ship disappear into the clouds. Good boy, she whispered, burying her face in his fur. Very good boy. In the months that followed, Earth began to rebuild. The knowledge gained from Takari technology helped advance human science by centuries. But perhaps the most important lesson was one humanity had known all along, that their greatest strength lay not in weapons or technology, but in the bonds formed with other species over thousands of years of shared evolution.